everyone. I'm Momita Mazumdar from India Bioscience. I welcome you all to the webinar EMBO Global Investigator Network, Global Research and Networking in Academia. I welcome our speakers, Gerline Vallon, Deputy Director and the Head of Young Investigator Network and Global Activities at EMBO, Leonard Ruin, Program Officer at EMBO, and two Global Investigator Network GIN awardees from India, Neha Jain from Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Jodhpur, and Rajendra Motiani from Regional Center for Biotechnology, RCB, Faridabad. Before we begin, let's go through some housekeeping instructions. Please ensure that your microphones are muted while the speakers are presenting. Please post your questions in the chat box and we will relay them to the speakers. Each talk will be for 15 minutes. If the talk gets over earlier, then we can have some questions. We can have some time for the questions, or else towards the end of all the talks, we have a 20-minute Q&A session. I would request who has joined, can you please mute yourself? And so let's begin with our first talk. Over to you, Gerline.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Very nice to have you here and see the interest in the program. So let me just say a few words about, of course, the Young Investigator, the global network, but also about EMBO, so that you understand why EMBO is here, what EMBO is doing in India. So let me just start with saying that EMBO is an academy for the life sciences. There are over 2,000 members in Europe who are elected and nominated each year by the membership. And in addition to that, there are 190 associate members worldwide who are also elected by the membership. In total, we have 92 Nobel laureates among the membership. So there are a number of associate members in India, and I'm sure you are very familiar with all of these scientists in the different institutes throughout India. And of course, you're probably familiar also with Indian-born Nobel laureate Venki Ramakrishnan, who's been an EMBO member for a very long time, clearly. EMBO is also a funder, and I'll just say a few words about the different programs that we have, but we'll concentrate on the global activities. But as a funder, we are supported by an intergovernmental organization called EMBC, the European Molecular Biology Conference, which has 31 member states who pay into the running of the different programs of EMBO. But since it is clear for decades now that science is not a local endeavor, but it is a global endeavor and really needs scientists from everywhere, their experiences, etc. We have started to expand our reach beyond the usual trodden path within Europe and also with the United States. So we have 5 partner countries whom we are working with. There are India and Singapore, who are associate member states of EMBC. There are Chile and Taiwan, who have a cooperation agreement with EMBC, basically a stepstone towards associate membership. And we have a cooperation agreement with Japan, with the Japan Science and Technology Agency. We also work together with the Company of Biologists to fund courses and workshops in Brazil, Canada, China, Mexico, and South Korea beyond the countries listed here. EMBO is also a publisher of scientific journals, and maybe worldwide, that is the activity that we are best known for. As an academic publisher, we are working to make the publishing process a fair process for everybody, the authors, the reviewers, etc., and of course the readers. So, for example, many years ago now, EMBO has implemented the transparent publication process, or transparent review process. That is, every paper that is published in any of our journals comes with a full record of peer review, conversation between editor, etc., etc. So this has now been adopted by many other journals as a good example of transparency in publishing. Trying to think more about improvement of the scientific publications. Recently, we have launched the Review Commons, which is a preprint peer review platform, which means that before one thing that is difficult in publishing and particularly annoying for authors is of course the layering of journals. You try with journal A, you may get to review or not. You try with journal B, reformat. You try with journal C. It could be that the whole process takes over a year and uses up maybe 9 different reviewers, which in the end are also authors like you are. So this is where review comments come in. So before you think about which journal you actually want to publish in, you can send your paper to review comments. You will receive 3 peer reviews like you would for any of our other journals, and then you decide with these reviews in hand, and of course comments or additional experiments that you might have done in response to any of these, you can then decide to send it to any of these 28 journals to be considered for publishing with those reviews already in place. So basically speeding up the process, because you have your reviews, the journal editors can decide whether they want to publish it or not, or recommend another journal. So anyway, so this is really something that both enhances the author experience as well also as the reviewer experience, because you don't have to review a paper multiple times. Right. I told you about the different programs that we have. Maybe the largest in terms of reach are the EMBO courses and workshops. So we fund about 90 scientific meetings organized bottom up by experts. This year, I think we have 11 courses and workshops taking place in India. And then the budget-wise largest program are the EMBO fellowships, which come in 2 flavors. They have the 2-year postdoctoral fellowships, and they're the EMBO scientific exchange grants, which are for short-term short-term interactions between 2 different labs in different countries. So of course, both of these programs are open to scientists in India. So please have a look at that. So let me now start with the Young Investigator Network, which is the topic of this discussion here. So the Young Investigator Network consists of 3 different programs. It's the EMBO Young Investigator program, which is which has been started in 2000, and it is for trying to identify some of the best young group leaders in Europe and beyond. We have another program since 2006, the EMBO Installation Grants. I'm not going to mention it here because it's not applicable for India. And then there is the Global Investigator Network, which we started in 2019, specifically for young group leaders in our associate member states. So what we realized here is that in some of our associate member states, it's very difficult to publish your first independent paper within the 4 years that are requested for the EMBO Young Investigator program. So for the Global Investigator Network, you can be an independent scientist, lab leader since 6 years maximum. So just community in numbers. There's our community is spread pretty much throughout the world. Most of them, of course, because of the tradition so far in Europe, but you can see we are going definitely beyond that. We have about 800 now, over 800 members in the program, with current network members 223 who are regularly interacting, and many of them have already, those from the past have already become EMBO members, because I guess one could expect that with the quality that we're looking at. So here, a list of the global investigators in India. Of course, we have Neha Jain here and Rajendra Mutiani, who will be talking to you about their experiences in the program so far. So, as I said earlier, for the global investigators, the eligibility criteria say, run your own lab between 1 to 6 years. And what we're actually doing with you and with the members of the network are a number of activities, which I will detail in a few minutes. With regard to the selection, the application deadline is 1st of May, which includes we request 3 letters of reference. The committee will then from the received application, they will invite 20 scientists to the next step, and we will then also invite an EMBO member, expert in your particular area of research, to write us an independent review. We would like to ask you to be available for a personal interview via Zoom on 17th or 18th of November, and the committee will select about 10 scientists. So in terms of application statistics, the average number of applications received is between 40 and 50. The success rate is 20%, and about 10 scientists will be accepted new into the program each year. So here is the pictures of those who have been selected last year. So what is it that we are doing with the within the Young Investigator Network? So there are different activities. Of course, networking starts with knowing each other. So we have several meetings that we run per year. There is, of course, an annual meeting where everybody comes together and, gives scientific talks, does some training together, talk to each other. Then we have what we call sectoral meetings, which are meetings on specific topics, such as gene regulation, cancer biology, etc. So we have 16 different topics that run either every year or every second year, where scientists or young investigators interested in this area come together. And you might say, oh God, not yet another meeting. Well, the special thing about this type of meeting is that it is not just your usual scientific conference, but here you are in a trusted environment where scientists feel free to talk about stuff that they haven't published yet, about questions that they have, trying to seek input from their peers, that way bring their science forward. We have support. We offer support for the group, so it's not only you who benefit from membership in the Young Investigator program, but also your group does. So we annually run a PhD course. Well, actually, it used to be traditionally here in Heidelberg, but we actually just started this year also running a PhD course in India. So there were a couple of the global investigators and young investigators in India whose names you saw earlier, who have gotten together and organized for PhD students in India. And this is also going to become a regular activity in India. So even more scientists, also outside the network, will have access to this PhD course. The special part about the PhD course is that it does teach and focuses mainly on professional skills, which we are not really learning in our general curricula. What we are also supporting is a lab retreat, so you can take your lab, somewhere secluded where you then really think about how to move things forward in your particular scientific field. We give you and your group members financial support when attending international scientific conferences, so that it's also easier for your students to go and attend scientific conferences. We allow and fund joint group meetings, so groups that you're interested in working with, you can get together, have a joint group meeting, and discuss how to move forward. Our EMBO Press publication fees are covered, so if you should publish in any of our journals, we will support that financially. Then a very important part that we have developed is training. Now, this is for you personally mainly. So there are the EMBO Lab leadership courses, which were specifically developed for young academic group leaders. And the premise here is that, again, as scientists, we learn a lot about how to write a scientific paper and how to think about our science, but we do not learn actually how to lead a group of people. And that suddenly becomes very important when you become a group leader. So, one important thing is, of course, communication. How do I communicate? How do I grow my people? How do I give feedback in a way that my PhD students can actually grow into independent scientists? Because that's in the end what will also benefit you the most, benefit them and you the most. So, and understand leadership. What does it actually mean? What is my role as a leader of the group? How do I deal with conflict that inadvertently is going to happen? How do I develop my team, etc.? So this is a 4-day residential course, which we have now also brought to India. So last year we had 4 iterations of this. This year we will have 2 courses taking place in India. So you might want to look out once it is announced. Right, sorry, it's here. They take place in Jodhpur at NEAS Institute and, and at the THSTI in Faridabad in November. So we will announce this shortly, and I'm sure that IBS again will help us spread that news. Um, almost lastly, I want to talk about the retreat. So every 2 years we have a training week where we offer courses on negotiation skills, creative problem solving, self-leadership, team management, etc., etc. So again, something that will help you bring you further in leading your group. We have now also just launched our mentorship platform. So this includes everybody in the Young Investigator Network, new and old, and also all of our EMBO members, so that you can then seek and find an EMBO member who may be able to advise you or be your mentor for your time in the program. In terms of activity, I think I basically mentioned all of this, the YIN meeting, where we're developing a new type of course. Right. So with this, I see my time is up, and I guess your questions will have to be deferred to a later time.
I'll follow up with an overview of the selection process. So this is to complement what Gerlin has just explained, and how, once you prepare your applications to join the program, how us at the EMBO Global Activities Office look at them, and then how the committee will evaluate you. So, Gerlin already.
Hey, just give me a. Can you please unmute yourself if you are okay? So Calvin, please go ahead.
Right. So once we receive everyone's applications, we will do, of course, an eligibility check. Like Erlene mentioned, we are looking for researchers in the life sciences who are within the first 6 years of having become an independent group leader. And this is how the process looks like. So, we'll receive your applications by the 1st of May. That's in about 3 weeks from today. And then we will send, after the eligibility check, all the files to the committee for a first round of scoring. So each candidate or each application will be scored by 3 committee members, which will give us a ranking. And based on this, we will have a meeting with the committee chair, and based on all the evaluations we have received from all the committee members, there will be a selection of around 20 candidates that will be invited for an interview. So whoever is invited for the interview usually receives an email from the EMBO Global Activities Office around about the 15th of July. And then there will be another round of further evaluation before the interview. So we send the applications, the 20 selected applications for external review. So EMBO members who are experts in your field will be looking at your project proposal in much more detail and providing a short report, which is then annexed to your application and then sent out to the panel members who will be interviewing these 20 candidates. Once at the interview, each candidate will be seen by five EMBO members who are part of our committee. And this, I'll get into a little bit more detail in a minute, but this is important because you get interviewed by people who have very different expertises within the life sciences. And that means that you have to prepare for an interview taking this audience into account. Then after the interviews, of course, there's, we get together and the top 8 to 10 candidates are selected to join the network, and we communicate the results to everyone by the 5th of December, including to anyone who might not have been selected to join the network. And something EMBO does in general in our programs is provide feedback to all the candidates who have not been selected, so then they know exactly, what could have been done differently or better. And the idea is that the feedback is always actionable. So, it's meant to be a constructive process as much as possible. Right. So in terms of the selection criteria, these are all defined in our guidelines, which are available online. And in a second, I'll join the link so everyone can have a look at that. But all in all, these are the criteria that the committee and also the EMBO Global Activities Office look at and also look for, right? So your track record is important. So like Erlin has mentioned, you not only have to be an independent researcher, but you have to be already kind of carving your niche and publishing your results. Also, like Erlin mentioned, so you will need to have a senior author paper. At the time of your application, we do accept papers published in a peer-reviewed preprint service. Just the important detail is that by the time of your interview, so between the application and the interview, this paper would have to be published already, so to be considered kind of an eligible component of your application. Of course, your research project that you are asked to provide a brief description on, and the idea here is to really see that you have a well-structured and a solid research project, research ideas that will really kind of continue propelling you forward. Group and research environment. So here what we're looking for is, whether you have, a group of people who can work with you and on the projects you are, putting together, but also that you're in a research environment or in an institute or university that really promotes you to do your best work, right? Do you have colleagues with whom you can collaborate? Do you have the facilities that you need to really carry out your experiments? Independence level, of course, right? So we're looking for people who are, who've moved on from the kind of tighter relationship with former supervisors, who are really, standing on their 2 feet and putting their own ideas forward and going after those with their research projects. And then, of course, the quality of the presentation and discussion during the interview. In terms of the preparation, so we provide very detailed guidelines, both for your written application as well as for the interview. We try to support the candidates as much as possible throughout the whole process. Everything is so the application guidelines are available on our website. The candidates who get selected for interview then receive via email the interview guidelines. Something that is really important about the applications to EMBO programs is, clarity and brevity, and the ability to distinguish, these application process from an application process that is usually like to a typical, funding agency, right? So we will not be funding your research projects as such. We will be funding you as a researcher, and of course we take into account your research projects. But the way you present yourself, exactly because of this difference, will also, be impacted. So, clarity and brevity. On the written application, you are given only 3 pages, including figures, to really present your projects and how you are, building your legacy, let's call it like that. And during the interview, you only have 10 minutes to present, yourself and your projects, what you're doing now and what's your vision for the future, of your research projects. So it's very short. So the idea is that you use these 10 minutes and these 3 pages to really show how you are building on your past work and to really carve your niche and become a leader in your field. And this is something the committee members really look for, right? While they are aware that they're looking at fairly junior research group leaders, it's, through the interview and, with all the information you provide in your application, and also the recommendation letters and the external reviewers report, they can really start to see, whether they're looking at someone who is in their path to becoming a leader in their research field. Another really important aspect is, cater to a diverse audience. So like I mentioned, you will be seen, by a diverse set of panel members, and so one person will be an expert in your field, or kind of as close as possible, considering the diversity of researchers we have sitting in our panels, but everyone else will be coming from a different background. So the idea is that, you can present your research in a way that is understandable and digestible by everyone, and yet you can really show that you know what you're doing and you dominate your field, and you have the expertise that is required to excel in what you're doing. We always say edit, write your application, edit, and then edit it again. And it's short, it's concise, it's to the point, it conveys all the important messages you do want to convey, and yet it's readable by different or researchers or experts in different fields. Something we very much recommend everyone to do, and I guess Neha and Rajendra can also tell you about this, is the importance of getting feedback from trusted peers and senior colleagues. Like I said, this is not an application for a traditional kind of research grants program. So really get your feedback from people who you trust, go through your written application, also go through your presentation slides, and get as much feedback as you can gather, because that's just useful. And it's also a way to get perspective from different people with different, views from yours. Then, if you do get selected to attend the interview, practice, and practice again. So it's really important that you distill, right? It's 10 minutes is very short. It's also very easy to, to get hopefully as very excited about the research that you're doing and being enthusiastic about it. But distilling the essentials and getting the main points across is really important in a 10-minute interview. And another important aspect, we also provide all this advice in our interview guidelines, is to try and avoid overly crowded slides and, and way too much information for, an application or a moment of interview that is expected to be, concise and to the point. So that's that from my side, and we'll be happy to take all your questions on these topics. Thank you.
I think we have 2-3 minutes. If anyone has have any questions, you can drop it in the chat box. So Dr. Nazmira Sabnam says, good morning. I'm a researcher working on molecular plant pathogen interactions. I could not find my domain in the EMBO subject area. Please let me know what should I do.
So in the EMBO subject areas, we do have plant biology listed. I guess so you're kind of at an interface, right? So molecular plant pathogen interaction, but Gerlin, add to, correct me if I'm wrong, but this falls under our umbrella.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, Ramya Madhavan says, if I hold a corresponding authorship and not senior authorship, can I still apply? The not primary authorship.
No, we are looking for senior authorship, indeed.
Okay, and Rajan Kashyap says, do you support clinical neuroscience projects with patient population?
Yes, as long as there is, a molecular aspect to the work that you're doing. Are you really looking at mechanisms that you want to understand in your clinical trial, which of course is totally possible and acceptable. We do have molecular medicine in our portfolio, but please make sure, I mean, at least in terms of applications for EMBO, we would like to see a molecular mechanism that you would like to support. There was also another, Mumita, there was also another question, who should we ask reference letters from?
Ah,
Achira Roy asked that people who have known us. So
yeah, right.
basically, yes, it should be a mixture of, those who've known you best, which your PhD supervisor and postdoctoral supervisor. But, it happens that I've had recent requests where people said, well, they just passed away recently. So obviously you can't ask them for that. So then please take a collaborator. I think that's probably the best. Department head, not necessarily, but a collaborator whom you have worked with in the past would then the best replacement for that.
Okay, we will have one more question and then we will move forward. Aditya asked me directly, so I'm just putting it. I'm working in an offshore campus of an Indian university based in the Middle East. Would I still be eligible for applying?
No, no, it has to be in India. It's not about nationality, it's about residence. So, I mean, you could be from any nationality working in India or any of our other member countries. So that doesn't really matter, but the residence is what is important in this case.
Okay. Yeah, we will move forward and we will take the questions in the quick Q&A session before and the other questions. Neha,
Yeah.
hi. Yeah, can you just
Can I
the
share my
floor is
slides?
yours. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you confirm if you can see my slides?
Also,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Erlin, and thank you, Leo, for the wonderful presentation. And yeah, please, Neha.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, India Bioscience and EMBO people for having me on board for this. I am Neha Jain. I'm an associate professor at IIT Jodhpur, and I was awarded EMBO Global Investigator Network grant in 2024. And before I go into that, so it's been 1 year that I have been in a grant awardee. So I will discuss about how this grant has benefited me in last year. But initially, I would like to tell you that how you should be applying and uh, what is the actual process because me and Rajendra have faced the interview. I'm sure that Gerlin and Leo has given a lot of information, which is very, very useful. But I would like to give you my personal experience towards the application as well as interview. So the motivation to apply for EMBO GIN was that I was looking for something which would give me flexibility to have collaboration across different countries and within India. And there are limited resources in India through which you can do. So that was my one motivation. And I'm sorry, I have never heard about this before when I applied. It was just my less of knowledge. And also because we suffered from COVID, so I really wanted to move out and interact with more people. So this was my motivation, and I applied to it, and I got selected. So the entire application process, as Leo said, that everything is detailedly described in their website. But we know that everything is given there on the website, but when you apply, you have problems. That's where EMBO has a lot of difference when you apply. So if you have questions, if you are stuck at place, you write to them and you will get reply within a couple of hours if that is there during their working hours. And if not, you get reply next day or next working day. So that is one thing that has actually helped me to finish my application right on time and with whatever details need to be filled. And also their deadlines are fixed. So it doesn't come as a surprise to you that, oh, the deadline is going to come. They have very well set deadlines. When is the interview? When is the shortlisting happening? So you can prepare yourself accordingly, which is one thing I really liked about this program. And once I was shortlisted, For the interview as well, we received a very detailed procedure that how should we preparing the slides. And we also discussed that I had a couple of questions which Leo answered to me. I had certain questions about the internet and other things, and I was traveling. So Leo was very kind to answer those questions. Now, coming to the interview, and I know that this is the main part where you actually have to show that why you deserve this grant. So, as a young investigator or as a new investigator, we are tempted to show whatever we have done in last 4 years or 5 years. So, I would suggest keep it short, keep it very focused to which what you want to say. And what I did is that I showed that how I have been working on, I have developed myself as an independent faculty after joining IIT. And you also mentioned that keep your slides less crowded. And we do have to keep in mind that we are talking to a diverse audience. So people might not be in your field. So we have to use or interact in a manner that everybody understands. However, the science is not underscored. So we present our science in a way that everybody understands, but it has the importance as well. So these are the points which I took care when I applied and I appeared for the interview. And the timing, as Leo mentioned, that practice, practice, and practice. You really have to practice because there is a clock. When you appear for the interview, there is a clock ticking on your screen, which shows that 10 minutes are going to over. So you don't get nervous when you see that clock is ticking. So practice as much as possible. And I can tell you that it's a wonderful process. It's beginning from when you apply to when you are selected or not. It's a very smooth and very wonderful process to go through. No hiccups. I didn't face any hiccups.
I'm sorry, Neha, I'll interrupt.
Yeah.
Did you move your slides because we
No, I'm going
couldn't?
to move now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for that, Nomita. So this is what I wanted to share with all of you. Just not by slides, just my personal experience of how I proceeded with this GIN grant. And I didn't show my application to anyone because this was completely new thing for me, and I didn't go to much of the details. But as a GIN awardee, I did help people and I did look at their applications. I also people reached out to me that can you share or your idea, so like how it went. So I did that. So I would be again more than happy to help any one of you if you would like to have help or ask anything. Please feel free to write to me. So take advice from people whom you can trust and who can give you critical suggestions on your applications as well as on your slides, if possible. That's it's going to be really helpful for you. So now what I'm going to talk in maybe 5-7 minutes is that how I have utilized my last year grant. So what I see this EMBO GIN grant as not just for the PI, but it's a combination of grant which allows the PI, the lab members, and the institute to combine and use this grant for all this purpose. So last year as a PI, through this GIN grant only, I was able to, I don't know, can you see my cursor? Yeah. I was able to attend 5 conferences and meetings, and this is the most important part as a researcher that you would like to do. And the most important thing here was that these conferences or meetings are not just in my field. I attended EMBO annual community meeting in Heidelberg, where there were around 300 to 400 people from various backgrounds. So it opens up also the thinking and the focus of your own research. I attended international meetings. The most important part for me last year was that I, I established a collaboration with 2 people abroad. However, I was looking for a grant that could help me to move forward. So there, EMBO helped me to cover my travel and stay cost and everything. So I could make an international visit. I could stay there for almost 2 months. And then I could finish our collaborative work there in which we are moving forward. And then we did a lab meeting as well. So this is all what I utilized EMBO grant. And I would also like to mention that uh, when you get this, you also get a list of things that you can do, but you are not very sure that can I do this or not. So when you are in confusion, Leo, Tiffany, and Lena, these people are there to help you. We can always reach out to them. Like for my international visit, I was not sure whether that would be covered or not. So I reached out to them and they told me that, yeah, that can be covered. And this is one thing that they have started, which I personally is loving, is this mentorship program. This is a fantastic program for sort of like younger PIs like me, that they've started a mentorship program where you can actually figure out who could be your mentor, who you could be a mentee. So you can have a matchmaking basically for your research, and you can get inputs from these people. You can have regular meetings, and this I really love this program. Thank you, Embo, for starting this. So moving on to how my students get benefited. So my students could attend two conferences, and usually the students get support from institute or from the government, but sometimes they do not because they exhaust their money. So EMBO helped my student. EMBO also helped my student to visit another lab where she actually acquired a certain experience and expertise which my lab didn't have. So basically, my student went and learned how to use a animal model for the disease that we are working. So if I didn't have this grant, I would not been able to support my student to learn and get expertise in that. Finally, how the institute is going to be benefited is by doing different things. So we did two lab meetings, one within the department. So I had two colleagues with whom I work very closely, but we wanted to basically put forward a proposal. So we had this lab meeting, we decided the ideas, and we actually submitted the proposal. Proposal also got granted. So again, thanks, Embo, for this. Not just with the department, I did a lab meeting with a collaborator who is outside the department, and he's an engineering person. So with him, we developed an idea, we did the work, and we actually submitted the manuscript. And this could happen only because of the MO. We could streamline, we could sit, we could streamline, we could discuss the science for a couple of hours without getting being disturbed, and without getting being think that who is going to pay for this meeting, how are we going to cover all these costs. So MBO did that for us. As Gerlin mentioned, that they do EMBO Lab Leadership course. I attended that course, and not just me. My colleague also was able to attend, and we came to know because I was part of the EMBO. So EMBO actually helps your colleagues also to grow and being part of the EMBO activities. And most importantly, this EMBO PhD course, which is, I must say, it's a fantastic course, and I wish I would have had such kind of a course as a PhD student. So three students from our department were selected to attend this. This happened in ICER Pune. So this was very, very useful. And I find that this grant, the important part is the grant gives you the flexibility to think that how you would like to use the grant rather than putting blocks in your way that you can't do this, you can't do this. These people will figure out a way for you if you would like to move forward. So this is all from my side, and I can stop sharing and I can take questions if you have now or maybe later. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
We have some minutes. Maybe we can take some questions if.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I think you already answered the questions that were asked in the chat box. So, okay. Does anyone have any question for Neha? If not now, we will move forward and we can have that in the Q&A session. I think we will move forward. Okay, so hi Rajendra. Welcome. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, EMBO team and India Biosciences team. I'm really happy to share my experience and sharing perspective from a applicant's point of view. Many of the things that I will talk about are already discussed, but I will give it a different flavor. Like as an applicant, what comes in your mind, rather than people who are actually executing this or kind of formulating the guidelines, but as an applicant, what all things you should keep in mind That sort of perspective I will share with you. And um, first thing obviously comes in mind that why would one like to, put together this application? It's not very simple, proposal that you can put together in a week's time. You have to invest time in it. You have to put together your thoughts, be very concise, and then why would one like to invest that time and effort? And my motivation was, it gives tremendous opportunities to network with best minds across the world. You get to meet other yin fellows, jin fellows, you discuss ideas. The opportunities are endless. Obviously, you get recognition from the scientific fraternity all over the globe, which is obviously, one looks forward to. Important point that I think almost all the speakers highlighted is flexible funding support. There are very few grants, especially in India, that allow you to use money as you like. I mean, as you like, I'm saying with the the broader guidelines, but they are still flexible enough that you can carry out a lot of multiple outreach activities, networking activities. Certainly provides career growth options, and also it's a way of contributing back to the scientific community, because once you go out there, you interact with other young investigators, colleagues with different ideas. Many a times that is a way that you can contribute to, hey, you are doing this, but I think maybe if you try it in a little different way, that might make more sense. So it's an also gives you an opportunity to kind of giving it back to the scientific community. So with all this in mind, I decided to put together my application. Um, and I mean, already everyone had talked about it. This is just the flow chart that how it goes about. First is the eligibility criteria, proposal that is evaluated by an EMBO member, and finally an interview by the a brief a small group of GIN selection committee. I will share my own thoughts, my own perspective on how one goes about putting together the proposal and how one appears in the interview. So, as I think Leonard talked about it, when we think about a successful application, it cannot be a single point, right? It has to be an extraordinary track record. Your proposal should be, well thought and put together in a very concise and compelling manner. And obviously, you have to appear in an interview, be confident, and should be able to address all the queries or the questions that are asked by the committee or maybe highlighted by the person or the EMBO member who has reviewed your proposal. So let's start by with track record. So over here, I'm giving my own example that, when you talk about track record, it cannot be a single thing. Obviously, the eligibility criteria itself says that you should have publication from your independent lab as a last author. In my case, when I appeared in the interview, I had 5 publications, including last author papers in journals like PLOS Biology and Journal of Biological Chemistry. Also, I'm sure that an important component of application is the funding status of the group, how the lab is currently doing. So our lab is funded by Wellcome Trust DBT India Alliance, SERB and DBT, and I'm also a co-PI on Indian Council of Medical Research proposal. So that shows that you have enough funds to actually carry out the work that you are proposing. Remember, this networking fellowship is not funding your proposal. They are looking at if you can propose, your proposal is sound enough, and do you have funds to actually carry out that proposed work. Also, if you have earlier national or international fellowships, that adds on to your CV. In my case, I had Inspire Faculty Fellowship and DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance Intermediate Fellowship. Obviously, as Leonard pointed out, training and current institution is important because, as we say that your environment plays a very big role in your success. So, if the research environment is conducive enough, that supportive enough, that you can carry out, world class and global projects, that makes the proposal very competitive. And also maybe the infrastructure. In my case, there were a couple of very specific questions during the interview on things that I had proposed. One of the committee members had a very lengthy discussion. Do you have this infrastructure available within the institution, or how accessible that infrastructure is to you? So certainly these all things are kept in mind when people are looking at the track record. Next would be your research proposal. As Leonard pointed out, it's a short proposal, 3 pages, right? So just enough background so that you make you give a background, but the major focus should be on the future directions. What do you want to do? It should be novel, but at the same time feasible within the infrastructure that you have access to. It should be very cohesive. So many a times what happens that in a bigger lab, we have lot of research programs going on, lot of research problems that we are trying to address. But the proposal should be very cohesive, focusing on a key research problem or a theme. Um, and it is actually an opportunity to show the reviewers that you are actually a future leader in that particular niche or domain. So the proposal should speak for itself. It should be such a sound piece of document that whosoever reviews it should be very convinced. And as people pointed out, it will be reviewed by an EMBO member, and this list is also available online, so one can have a look. And maybe at a later time point you will also get an option to, if you feel that there could be a potential of conflict of interest, that you can also highlight that point to the EMBO team. And then if you have crossed that hurdle, and if you are among those 20 lucky or group leaders who are invited for the interview, the things that one should keep in mind is that it is a very time bound presentation, so one has to practice. It should be very concise. So not even the presentation, even the discussion is very time bound, 10 minutes window. So this is important to remember. If a committee member is asking you a question, make sure the answer to that question is short, crisp, and to the point. Because if you spend too much time explaining non-redundant or not useful information with the reviewers, maybe you are losing out on the time and other important questions that were there in the committee members mind. They will not have enough time to ask or clarify those doubts. So it is important to give very concise and crisp answers. And obviously you are giving a presentation for such a prestigious fellowship, so be prepared for tough questions. Some questions may come as a surprise, but one has to be spontaneous enough to give those answer to those questions. And obviously one has to be confident and, as I said, to the point response. Remember, the committee is looking for future leaders, so you cannot be anything less than confident. So if you are very lucky and if you are able to get this, the benefits already Neha and Leonard have talked about. But being in India, the most important component is flexible funding, and that's a good amount of funding that EMBO provides every year for 4 years of fellowship. It can be used to participate in international meetings, send your students to the conferences, as Neha pointed out, or to other institutions. Lab retreat, you can go out with your group out of the normal routine lab or institution. You can go to a secluded place, have a more relaxed discussion, long-term discussion, or the directions of the lab, and that is also supported once during the tenure. Again, additional support for training courses like lab leadership courses. Again, very important thing is waiver for publication fees. So EMBO, very high quality journals. We all aim to publish there, and then sometimes once the paper is accepted, we struggle to arrange for the publication charges. So EMBO GIN program provides the waiver for publication fees in the EMBO press journals. And an important thing is that what I could gather is that even after completion of the fellowship period, the participation in EMBO GIN and IN meeting continues. So that is also that, once you are part of this EMBO GIN family, essentially you stay as a part of the family. It's not just a 4-year program that once it's over, you are not associated with them or you are not part of the activities. You actually get the opportunity to continue to participate in these Yin and Jin meetings. And with this, I would like to thank you all for attention. And I will be more than happy to connect. If you have any doubt, any question that for some reason we are not able to discuss today right now, or it comes to your mind later on, please feel free to write me or connect with me. I will be more than happy to help anyone who wants to put together an application for EMBO GIN. And certainly I will highly recommend anyone who is within first 6 years of their independent career in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajendra. Thank you for the wonderful slide, and thank you for the pointers for the next GIN awardees, maybe from here. And Neha, as rightly pointed out by Shuli, while Leo told about the individual, how it supports individuals, and your perspective on how it has impacted institutions. So that was valuable. And there are a few questions for you, Neha, and you, Rajendra.
Yep.
Ram is ask you the major differences between a typical grant and a gene application.
Yeah, you.
Sure. Yeah. So a typical grant application is a very lengthy process. That's what I figured that GIN application is basically a very small application, but it is very intense. So your normal grant application will ask you what is your budget, how are you going to utilize it, and your objectives in a detailed manner. However, your GIN application is short, crisp, and concise. And it also pays attention to what you have done so far, what are your achievements, as Rajendra mentioned. So these two applications are very different. That's my point of view, that it's not a regular grant application. It's very different from the regular grant application. It's mostly focused on the PI, how the PI has established his or her lab, how many lab members you have, how many facilities, how much facilities you have, like Rajendra pointed out. So it takes into account of all these things rather than just the elongated or elaborated grant application.
Yeah, if I can add
I
a little
hope.
bit.
Sure.
When we write a project proposal, we put together objectives, short-term objectives, and these sort of things. Over here, if it is a 3-page application, maybe a 3/4 of a page could be in the background. But essentially, what I understood, committee is looking at future leaders. So what you will be doing in next 5 to 10 years. So if you can put together those bigger ideas, bigger themes of your lab in 3 pages. That's what they are looking at.
Yeah, if I may add, yeah, it is not your usual grant application, which is usually on a particular, very narrow topic that you would be writing on. But this is really about your lab, which direction you're going in, what kind of expertise have you gathered in your education that actually allow you to fill a niche. That where you actually have a niche where you can compete with all those guys who've been around for very many years with the huge labs, but you have an expertise that fills a particular niche and is trying to, of course, answer an important question. But that can be in the context. So the committee will also ask you maybe more general questions, to step a bit away from your particular research, and think about the wider implications for the field. Yeah. But of course, what you also, then both in the application as well as then in the interview, you need to convince the committee of is that you have done the background work. So it's always good to report on the things that you've already done, either as a postdoc, already done as base work in your independent lab. Rajendra was saying he had already really a couple of paper published when he applied, so he could really show what what he'd already achieved and where and how he's going to proceed from there. So again, it's not drilling into one particularly small thing, but showing that this is the direction that you will take, and this is the proof that you can do this.
Does anyone have any questions? You can drop it in the chat box. Yeah. Is there a possibility for reapplication?
Yes, you can reapply as long as you're eligible, and please watch out for the eligibility criteria. Children, childcare, having taken care of someone will allow you to extend the 6 years that you would usually get. But you can only be interviewed twice. So you can apply multiple times, but the committee will only interview you twice, if it comes to that. And I would have to say, there are a lot of our program members who've been successful in the second time. So don't worry about that. That happens. Some of the best had that problem, maybe because they didn't present themselves so well. But, yes, you can reapply as long as you're eligible.
Okay. Nazmiara asked if is there any way to change any referee before submitting the final application and deadline? I mean, is there a process to edit the application? Maybe that's what they're asking.
You need to get in touch with us. And so if the, for example, referee A, if they haven't submitted their reference letter, you can let us know and we will replace the contact associated with one of the letters of reference, and then they will receive an email with the link to fill out the form. I think if they have already submitted the application, I mean, if you let them maybe know that their letter of reference will be discarded and replaced, but yeah, technically we can do it for sure. You just need to email us.
Yeah, Veda Krishna asked, is there any subject preference in selection based on EMBO's focus? I think Leo has already given a link, shared a link for the subject.
Yes, and in terms of preference, no, there are none. There shouldn't be none.
No, and I mean, I think this is also why our committees, it's 10 people, everyone from a different background. So while maybe, people individually might have their preferred subject, as a group, we are able to evaluate all, applications from all kinds of different topics within the life sciences. Just to, the link I shared with the subject areas, each heading, let's call it like that, you can expand it, and then within that there's a detailed list of all the fields that fall within that. And then to kind of pick up on a question that also Gerlin answered in writing on the chat, some people are working at the interface of subjects, and that's okay, right? As long as you can show the work you're doing, argue your case, how great your research program, the current and future one is, then yeah, we can work with them.
Does anyone else have some questions? You can. Actually, I have a few questions if I can ask.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. So how does EMBO GIN support early career researchers compared to established investigators?
Well, hopefully it became clear in the also what the Rajendra and Neha said, that we have very many things that are really tailored to young starting group leaders. We have this training week, the Yin retreat, where we give different courses. Although I have to say, there's always some of the old young investigators there who would also still like to benefit from some of the courses that we are offering, because these things weren't available when they were trained many years ago. But I mean, really, we are listening to our young investigators, our program members, to find out what is it that they would need. For example, one thing is we have childcare grants, right? So this was something that where one of our young investigators was asking, that would be nice if we had that. I have problems, what do I do? How can I take my child with me, etc. And so we said, oh, that's right. Why don't we give a small grant for you to either take your child with you, get your aunt in to take care of the child, or whatever, right? So again, flexibility in there. So basically, we are listening to our young group leaders to see and hear what's important for them.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Rosie. I also have a question for Neha and Rajendra. So, thank you for sharing your experiences. How do you think being part of the EMBO Global Investigator Network at large will benefit you in the coming decades?
Shall I go first?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this is a great opportunity for the young people to establish collaboration and to spread what you are doing. So by attending meetings, by having collaborations, people get to know you. And you can also expand the field that you are working in. And this is like you are there to show what you can do. So you get an opportunity by getting a GIN grant, and then in next 4 years or 5 years, you actually do what you have planned to do. So for me personally, this EMBO grant has a very important role to play because my kind of research, I'm really interested in establishing collaboration not just in India but abroad. So establishing collaborations in many countries, we don't have those facilities or grant facilities. But EMBO allowed me to establish the collaboration and work together. So in that field, I feel that I can actually diversify my research area and gain much more expertise, which I would have not gone without having this GIN grant. So I think this GIN grant is going to help me enhance my research expertise and become a leader in that particular area which I'm working on.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Neha. Networking is a key component today in a successful scientific career. So EMBO GIN provides ample opportunities for networking, going out to attend meetings. Also, very importantly for students, as Neha pointed out, we have some resources in terms of some travel fellowships and all, but many a times they are not enough to cover the complete travel of a student, and then many of them they are not able to get the real opportunity to get feedback on their work. Say a fourth year student really needs feedback, say what or he or she can do, a different pair of eyes. We keep seeing their work, we keep giving them suggestions, but what is global audience looking for? The feedback from when they present their work in international conferences is very important. So I feel the support for the students so that they can go and attend the conferences is a great way that brings back the knowledge to the lab. And certainly in long run, what I see that these networking and training opportunities that one gets through EMBO is gonna fast forward the trajectory of the scientific work that we are doing. And certainly in I mean hopefully in coming decades we are indeed one of those mentors on the EMBO list, that people from other parts of world actually start approaching us that we would like to get some mentorship. So that will be a day that I look forward to with the help of EMBO. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you both for answering the question. Ram, I think this is directed to Gurleen and Leo. Ram says, I understand that we need to focus more on the future directions of the lab. But is there a percentage on the score for independent sections? Example, track record, proposal.
Yes, so all of these things go together. Leo showed you a slide where, she showed what are the different aspects that the committee looks at. And there is actually, I wouldn't say that, I think they're pretty equal. It is, of course, important that you have to have the track record to show that what it is that you're proposing in the future can actually be carried out by you. So I wouldn't say that any of these is more important than the other. Yeah.
I think Mukul Jain asked, are there any specific grant amount that our lab will benefit? I think it depends on the proposal work that they will propose.
No, you get a fixed amount. So
Amount.
the membership is for 4 years, and each year, each year you have available 7,000 euros to use on the specific networking benefits that EMBO provides. So EMBO, I'll actually share the link, but it's available online on our website. you can use the money you can spend the money on a long list of benefits. And what we ask, and I mean, through this I'll also answer the next question on the chat. So we ask everyone to send us an activity request where we review just to make sure it's eligible and it's following the program guidelines. Once it's approved, you can go ahead with your activity. Your institute will be holding the grant money, right? So then you can get all the reimbursements processed by your admin or finance office. We do not ask for a progress review for this grant because, as we mentioned, we're not funding your research as such. We're funding you as a researcher and all your networking. And like Neha and Rajender just explained, it's all about getting your science seen around the world and your networking and your networks to grow. So then what we ask you at the end of each year is a financial report. So we know, how much money you have spent, and we can then in the following year top up your grant so you have the 7,000 euros available again.
Okay, before going to the previous questions, Mukul just asked, do they have to show their networking in the proposal?
Yeah, yes, it's very brief. There's a section in the application form, in the offline part of the application form, where you are asked to kind of expand a little bit on how the grant will benefit you and your group. But that's not the main part of the application.
Yeah, we of course also hope that your network will, that is the idea, that your network will grow by this, so we don't necessarily need to see that you already have a huge network, right? So
yeah, I think Leo already mentioned, but Harsha asked, are there any progress reviews for this grant?
No, we just ask for the annual financial reports. So, we'll get an overview of how you are using your grant, which we do anyway, because, program members are asked to send us an activity request, but not in terms of the research as such.
Raja Bhattacharya has a question. Does 5 or 6 years of RLS or DBT intermediate fellowships fall within the 6-year eligibility criteria?
this RLS is Ramalinga Swami, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. Yes, the intermediate. Rajender, you were a DBT intermediate fellow, right? An intermediate fellow, right? Which made you an independent person, because there is the early fellowships, if I understand, which is sort of the going from postdoc to independence, but then the intermediate is really for an
Independent career,
right? Yeah. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Hello, Neha and Rajender.
Are there any other questions coming in?
Yeah, I would like to ask one from behalf of our participants. So, hi, Neha and Rajender. I would like to ask that what role does mentorship play within the EMBO GIN community?
Nice question, Rituja. Thanks for that. So the EMBO group is a very large group, right? So it's global as well as it's national, if you think about India. So we do get linked with the global people who are in our field. You can approach them, and this mentorship program, which they have established, and it's a very structured program. So you can get help from them. But if you talk about just within India, this EMBO community is a very close-knit community. We have a WhatsApp group. We talk to each other. If we need something, we ask just in the WhatsApp group that, hey, do you have this? Or are you planning to go for this meeting? Or I'm stuck here. Can you help me? So there are people at different stages. So there are people who have completed their GIN grant probably, and there are people like me and Rajendra who have recently started the GIN grant. So definitely those are the mentors for us. So if we are stuck at some point, or if we like, I took help from somebody to review my grant. I asked somebody that I'm submitting a grant. Can you take a look at that grant? So they helped me in that. And similar manner that when we have global investigators, I usually contact them. I write them that I met you in this EMBO meeting or through this, and this is thing that I would like to have your help in. So this is a very good network. This is a very close-knit network. Although there are many, many people, but people are available for you. That's what I feel. And maybe Rajinder can add to this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a very good question. So I mean, as Neha pointed out, that it's a close knit community in India. We have a dedicated WhatsApp group, and actually we are meeting later this week. So we have a dedicated EMBO GIN first sectoral meeting in India at IIT Mandi, starting 10th. So 10 to 12th, we are there in IIT Mandi. We will be, and it's a fantastic way, the way Bhaskar and Siddesh are organizing it. It's like a 1 hour talk and then 1 hour discussion on each. So that gives you ample opportunity to talk about your work in a very slow, balanced fashion, and also get constructive feedback from the peers who are essentially not working in the same domain, but they are working on a bigger, scientific question. So then they can give you a feedback. What I feel, that's a fantastic, way of, bringing. As I said right in the beginning, the first point in my motivation was connecting with the brightest minds across the globe. Certainly there will be people who are really sharp within Indian scientific community, and what better than getting their feedback on your own work, and how do you see your work getting progressed in next 5-10 years. So I think that way it's a great community. As a community in India, I would like to thank EMBO. It's a great platform that you have given us, and I've just started, but I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add one point, if we have time, to Rutuja's question, that sometimes these mentors actually, when you talk to them, they remember you and they will write you back that, hey, I am nominating for this fellowship or for this fellow position. Can I nominate you? So I have been nominated by an MO member from India after getting this EMBO GIN, that they would like me to nominate for a particular award or for a particular fellowship as well.
Thank you for sharing your experience. I am glad to know that young PIs could be able to build accountability groups through this EMBO GIN community. Thanks.
I think we will have our last question. Mukul asked, is this grant specific to faculty working in government institutes in India? And is a specific question QS ranking essential for the institute for this grant?
No, it is open for all institutes throughout India. So it's private institutes, government institutes, right? So it's open to everyone who is able to publish their work in an international scientific, international peer-reviewed scientific journal. So no, none of those required.
Can I ask one question?
Do we have any other questions?
I have one question.
Okay, please go ahead, Manju.
Yeah, so thank you for this session. My question is regarding the eligibility criteria of 6 years. So I joined in my independent position at University of Hyderabad in December 2018. So I have crossed that 6 years of eligibility criteria. But I read in the eligibility criteria that if you have children, then you can still apply. So I have 2 kids. So do I have to provide any proof for that, like that I took maternity leave or something like that?
No, as a woman, you get an automatic extension of 1 year per child. So in your case, if you have 2 children, you have 2 years extension, which means that this year you can still apply.
Thank you very much.
Just to say, just for completeness sake, as a man, you get 3 months per child. And if you can say that you've taken more time off to take care of your children, then we will take that amount. So just let us know.
So do we have any other questions? I think, thank you, Ram. Thank you so much to all the speakers, and thank you for answering to all the questions, and thank you for the questions. Those are very important questions, and those are very, essential questions before applying for the EMBO GIN.
And if anyone has any questions, just to add, feel free to drop us an email. We'll be happy to answer. And yeah, about the application process or eligibility criteria, anything you might need to know, in addition to what we've discussed today, just let us know.
Yeah. And also from our side, a big thank you for India Bioscience for hosting the webinar again. It's great to collaborate with India Bioscience, and we look forward to continuing that. And of course to Neha and Rajendra, who've talked so warmly about being members of the Global Investigator Networks. It's really nice to hear, and it's very satisfying also for us to see that. Thank you. And of course, very much looking forward to receiving a lot of good applications from India.
Thank you, Erling. Thank you, Leo. Manjula has had put a feedback form link in the chat box. So if the participants can fill this up, it will be great. Please do that. And over to you, Shuli, for the closing
Thanks,
remarks.
Momita. I'll again have a long list of thank yous to say. Leo, Gerlind, it's been a pleasure co-hosting the webinar with you and working towards it. And on behalf of India Bioscience, I would like to thank everyone who could join us today across time zones and disciplines to explore how scientific collaboration can transcend borders and institutions, and even ways of thinking with the right kind of support. Neha and Rajendra, your insights on expanding one's own network for collaboration, mentorship, and the very practical tips on leveraging peer mentoring, uh, the application process, and I'm sure all of this is going to be very important for researchers who are applying from low resource settings and not just from India. And this truly captures the spirit of this network. And